in Virgo is a rooted opportunity to heal, take care of yourself, and start the process of reparenting. Hi friends, welcome back to another video. I'm so excited today because we're talking about the new moon in Virgo, and I just think it's gonna be like an amazing time, and I'm so pumped. So welcome back everybody. I'm Luna for those who don't know me, and this is the new moon. Let's talk about it. Also, I'm in a new place. Let's just be so for real right now. It is not cute. That's okay. That's okay. It's not cute yet. I'm still setting up my background. This is actually not going to be the background that I use. I just need to get my filming chair, but we're gonna save up some money because moving is expensive. So I'm gonna be here for the time being, and it's not the most aesthetic, which you know pains me to my core. Okay, but this is what we've got. So just buckle up. Let's talk really quickly about what the new moon is in astrology. So the moon cycle, the lunar cycle, is the time from the new moon to the full moon back to the dark moon before it starts the next cycle starting on the new moon. So the new moon is always the beginning of a new cycle. So it's the start of this cycle. If we're thinking about the lunar cycle in comparison to like a menstrual cycle, it would be the menstruation, right? It's the beginning of a cycle. It's kind of this, like the Fool and Tarot, it's a beginning of a journey. It's kind of like an open void where you can kind of start to really manifest and get clear about what you want to bring in, call in, or do in this next lunar cycle. So it's a really potent time for manifestation, for getting clear on where you want to be in the next few weeks, and starting kind of to choose your game plan. And the game plan is really very much like a Virgo thing too, because Virgos are very strategic. They're very organized. They know what they want, and they know how to get it. And they're really, really great at the doing, like actually doing the things that need to be done. So it's a great, we'll get into that in a second, but it's a great time to really get clear about what you need to do. So let's talk about the specs of this Virgo new moon, okay? So Virgo new moons always happen in Virgo season, because what is happening astronomically speaking is that the moon and the sun are in alignment. And so the moon is dark because of that, right? So, the moon and the sun are in the same spot in the sky, which, yeah, they're in the same sign too. So it's always happening in Virgo season. The new moon in Virgo will happen on a different day every year. You can watch this video at any point in the future, but if anybody's watching in 2024 when I'm filming this, the new moon is happening on September 2nd at 6:55 p.m. Pacific time, which is 9:55 p.m. Eastern time. I'm also gonna leave a list of future Virgo new moon dates. If you are watching this in say 2025, 2026, whatever, probably for the next 4 or 5 years, I'll have that listed down below so you can see like when the new moon is and what time, if you're more of an exact person like me. Virgo is an earth sign, okay? So it's very grounded in reality. It's very much a part of the world, a part of the earth. Someone who's concerned with like material things, not in a flashy way, but in like a way of like the Virgos I know are very hard workers. They're you know, they know what they want out of life. They're gonna get it. Even if they don't know what they want out of life, they're gonna be doing what they need to do to be successful and to achieve. You know, they're not like a Pisces who's up in the astral realm, right? They're not like an Aquarius who is like pondering and thinking all the time. And they're not like an Aries who is, you know, just absolutely going crazy. They're actually very rooted in reality. They're very practical. They're very organized. They're very good with like little details and stuff. So they're very great workers because they pay attention really well to things. And I do feel, this is kind of like a little thing to throw in, I feel like all my friends with Virgo placements are the best gift givers. I think they're just so, I don't know how to explain that with astrology, but I just think Virgos are very thoughtful. They think a lot, and I don't think people realize how much they are kind of thinking and planning and strategizing all the time. Virgos are a mutable modality. So all of the signs fall into one of the 3 modalities, fixed, cardinal, or mutable. Virgo is mutable, which means they're kind of go with the flow in a way, which if you're a Virgo, you might be like, I don't know about that. But there is this sort of like ability to find new information and process that information and make changes as needed. They're not fixed, they're not stuck in their ways, and they're not cardinal, so they're not like trying to go fucking be the first to do this thing. They're kind of like getting a vibe. They're kind of one who really takes in a lot of information, allows themselves to shift perspectives if they find better information, for example. In astrology, Virgo rules the 6th house, and the 6th house essentially has a lot to do with health and daily routines, and also fitness. And so this makes a lot of sense if you know Virgos. They're very, I think they're very good with their health typically. Essentially that comes back to that kind of practicality, like they kind of know what needs to happen to be healthy, to be able to, you know, operate at the level that they require within themselves. Now this can sometimes lead to like the number one shadow side, I guess you could say, of Virgo, which is perfectionism. They can kind of get stuck in the whole like making themselves a self-help project and always trying to be better and having really, really high standards for themselves. And I think it's really great to have high standards for yourself and to, you know, I mean, I'm a perfectionist too, you know, but I think you can approach those things from a healthy way. And I think it's really imperative for Virgos to just like check in with themselves every so often and see if they're approaching those from a healthy way, or if they're, you know, maybe being a little hypercritical to themselves and maybe even being a little mean to themselves or others. Sometimes they can be a little judgmental sometimes, or a little bit, you know, expect other people to be as perfect as they expect themselves to be, right? So we just need to kind of lean into that mutable energy and kind of let ourselves realize that everything has nuance. And yes, these are traits that are found within Virgo people. Not every Virgo person is going to have these. I say that we typically take about like 80 to 90% of the signs that we occupy. So I'm an Aries. There are about 80 to 90% of Aries traits and qualities that I exude because you have a whole natal birth chart and other influences happening. So I'm not saying every Virgo is going to be all of this all of the time, but these are traits that come up when we are tapped into the Virgo frequency. And so since we are all going to be experiencing this Virgo season, these are things that we might notice start to come up for us or get a little spotlighted in our lives. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so they're very good communicators. Mercury is this planet of communication and intellect. So they're typically very smart. They love learning. They kind of approach learning from like a grounded approach of maybe being very avid readers or researchers, things like that. So very smart people, very good communicators. So let's talk a little bit more in depth beyond like the astrology keywords about Virgo energy, and kind of remember that this is going to be extra highlighted if you're a Virgo person. You probably feel these all the time. And everybody, regardless of where Virgo is in your chart, these are things that are probably going to come up for us more over this next month, and particularly during the new moon. Virgo, the word Virgo stems from the word that means virgin. And so what does that kind of mean? Because the word has kind of had a bit of a change throughout time and kind of means something different now. So what it had meant before our puritanical society kind of got to it just meant sovereign. It just meant somebody who was in tune with their own power. Virgo being the virgin doesn't mean that Virgos are prudes. It doesn't mean that Virgos aren't like super in tune with their sacred sexuality and, you know, even a little spicy. Virgos can be spicy as hell. It doesn't have anything to do with that. This word meant sovereign. It meant in touch with one's own personal power, in charge of one's own self. So we look back at these virgin goddesses like Hestia, or Vesta, right? So we see these people who were like, I'm not going to get sold off to a man. I'm not going to be a man's wife and that be my thing. I am my own sort of like it's super feminist. It's super independent woman energy. It has nothing to do with what it means nowadays. So this energy of sovereignty is really going to come up for us this new moon and this month. So like, what does that mean for you? What is your relationship to sovereignty, to being in touch with your solar plexus, your personal power? I think a big thing for this is that so the goal of Virgo energy is to connect to that sovereignty. And so due to that, a common wound that folks with strong Virgo in their chart or folks will experience as we enter a Virgo transit or a Virgo sun or a Virgo moon is this tendency to people please. And I would say people pleasing is the opposite of sovereignty. Sovereignty is saying no. Sovereignty is saying, I don't like that. Sovereignty is saying, I respect your opinion, but this is how I live my life because this is what is right to me, right? It's not diluting yourself to be more palatable. It's not, doing what you think your family wants you to do, or practicing religion the way your family told you you're supposed to, or behaving the way society told you you're supposed to. It is none of that. It is not people pleasing. It is being so in touch with what resonates for you and honoring that by taking up fucking space. Taking up space, owning your needs, owning your wants, owning your desires, owning who you are, and not falling into the trap of people pleasing, okay? So that's a huge thing that comes up for Virgos and for all of us. So that's just something to keep in mind, okay? There also tends to be a bit of like a mother wound that tends to come up, wounds around perfectionism, and with that, I mean, I'm kind of tapping in a little bit to like the shadow side of Virgo, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. I think the main energy, like these are all like everything's polarity, everything's duality, right? So on the opposite side of perfectionism is Virgos just want to do good. They just want to be right. They want to be good. So they want to hit their health goals. They want to be in their fitness. They want to have their routine. They want to make their money. They want to get an A+, right? They want to achieve these things because they want to feel like they're good and successful. And maybe even there's a hint of that people pleasing of like, oh, my XYZ will be proud, or this will mean I'm worthy or whatever. And those are all things to unpack, right? But there's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful and wanting to do good. So I think that the Virgo new moon really brings up a great time to think about how we can be better, but like from the lens of a loving space, right? For me personally, I just moved, so life's been a little chaotic. I know I can have a better morning routine. I know I can have a better evening routine. I know I should get back into working out because I've super fallen off of it since moving. And I'm not attaching any sort of emotion or judgment onto those things. Yeah, I need to bring my fitness routine back in. That doesn't make me lazy. That doesn't mean anything about me. That's not shameful. None of that. It's just I moved and I'm adjusting, or maybe I didn't move, right? Maybe it's just, oh, I stopped doing that and I should do that again. We need to, when we're looking at how we can be better, just be really careful not to attach an emotion or a shamefulness or a judgment to that. It can just be neutral. It can just be like, you know what? I have been not eating very well. Maybe there's a reason we can name, like, oh, I went through a breakup, or oh, I, blah, 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 whatever, right? That can definitely be a factor that we can totally admit to ourselves and be like, yeah, that makes sense. Or maybe there's nothing. Maybe it's, sometimes we just fall off of our habits. We don't need to feel bad about it. We don't need to berate ourselves about it. It can just be like, yeah, I'm gonna be better at this, right? And so the Virgo new moon kind of opens up this really rooted opportunity for us to get super for fucking real with ourselves about how we can be better, in the sense of how can we take care of ourselves better? Not how can I be better than my sister? How can I be better than this person on Instagram I always compare myself to or whatever? Just how can I be better for myself? How can I take care of myself better? It's also important to, when you're working through this Virgo energy, make sure not to get problematic with yourself, just to be so honest with you. Especially when we're talking about things like food and fitness. Okay, let's be so for real. Let's be honest with each other. It's really hard in our society to be a woman in diet culture, or anybody in diet culture, right? And so I want us just to be really careful and really mindful about how we're wording these things, okay? So you notice how when I'm talking about I need to get back into my fitness, I am not tying it to any physical aesthetic presentation. I'm not tying it to anything about my body other than the fact of like, it's good to move my body. And it's an act of love and an offering to my physical vessel to move it and to take care of it. Because scientifically, I know, moving your body is good. As much as I kind of hate it, and the Taurus rising in me would love to just nap on the couch all day, I am this spiritual being inhabiting this physical body in this lifetime, and you got to take care of your physical body. So I know it sometimes sucks, but you got to do it because it's good for you. And you know, I would just say, really, my personal opinion, try not to like make it about how you look, okay? Because that's a slippery slope. And I think when we're experiencing Virgo energy, we already have this capacity to be more self-critical. And so it's very important to be careful about that. So to quickly recap the shadow side of Virgo, I think that, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit with the hyper-perfectionism, the inner critic can come through, being really self-critical, seeing yourself as like a project or something to fix or something to make perfect. And also, I mean, the Virgo shadow side can become also hypercritical of other people, so just be careful that you're not projecting any of these things onto other people as well. I know it comes in good stride. Like, I know the Virgos in my life who have been critical of me are doing it because to them it is a big value to be really, really good and you know, check off these boxes. And I just recognize that, you know, that's not my route. I am a crazy Aries and you can't put me in a box. You know what I'm saying? One important thing to note is that not everybody is going to feel these traits so intensely. If you have Virgo in your chart, if you have a Virgo stellium, you know, if you have important Virgo placements like a North Node, a Chiron, anything like that, you know, it'll increase the intensity. Everybody's going to feel it. Everyone's going to be impacted. But the intensity and the area of your life in which you're impacted by this Virgo energy is going to be dependent on your natal birth chart. My task for you is to look at your natal birth chart, okay? If you've gotten a reading from me before, you should be able to pull up the recorded reading or the presentation and it'll have your birth chart wheel there, and you can follow the Virgo icon to see which house it's occupying. If there's any planets in that sign, anything like that, you'll be able to see. Otherwise, you can go to astro.com and cast your own chart if you feel comfortable doing that. It's like a little confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. You just need to know your birth time, location, and date. I do recommend getting a natal chart reading done at some point in your life, whether it's like a mini one like my unique magnetism reading or a full natal birth chart like mine. Or another astrologer's. I'm not telling you have to get mine, but I do recommend getting that just because it makes a lot more sense and astrologers can really kind of translate the language of astrology so that it's not just a bunch of weird icons and lines and symbols that are really confusing. So find where Virgo is in your chart and check out which house it occupies, okay? Because that's going to show you the area of your life. Let's talk about Beyonce, because I'm always looking for a chance to talk about Beyonce. Let's be for real. I was so sad when she didn't appear at the DNC. I was like, what am I doing? She said she'd be here. That was sad. So Beyonce, right, is my favorite. Well, I don't want to say my favorite Virgo because I have friends who are actually Virgos, so not my favorite Virgo, but I love Beyonce as an example for Virgo and Leo energy in particular. If you haven't watched her documentary, I just remember watching her documentary and seeing how hard she works. And I was like, this is the goal. This is so Virgo. So she has her sun in Virgo, right? That's the only planet she has in Virgo. And it's in the 11th house. So, you know, that means that this kind of Virgo energy, this Virgo moon will be transiting her 11th house, which is the house of community, of public life in the sense of like, of community, not so much in the sense of 10th house career public life, but large community, fan followings even. So I would tell her that it's definitely a time to like get out there within her community, and like there could definitely be some healing around her community. She could kind of enter this like mother era within her fans, her community, her friend groups, even like I think hosting a party with just within her like personal friend groups, I think could be very healing during this time, or really doing some pondering on like if, and I love I'm saying this like she's watching, but maybe one of you has Virgo in your 11th house. But doing some pondering about like how supportive are her friend groups? Yeah, are they being supportive? Is it feeling good? Is it feeling healing? Or maybe could she align herself with other groups that feel more healing for her and feel more supportive and nurturing and things like that? Whereas if somebody had Virgo in their 4th house, this new moon might be more of a time to think about your home life, reconnecting to safety, security. Honestly, unpacking childhood trauma would be like really big with this, making your home more nurturing, more supportive. If somebody had Virgo in their 10th house, I would say this would definitely be a time where really nourishing the roots of your career, your job, if you're an entrepreneur, whatever, really nurturing those roots and making sure your career as like an energetic being is taken care of and is supported. So I know that's a lot because astrology is very confusing and there's a lot of words that we don't use in like normal day life that we use in astrology. So take it slow, like don't worry. General attributes will kind of like be in all of our lives. So if you can't find like where Virgo is in your chart, it's not the end of the world. If you do want to learn more about your personal birth chart, I offer 2 readings. I'll have them linked below. One of them is like my starter reading. It's called Unique Magnetism, and I essentially point out the parts of your chart that are really, really fascinating or really point to your beauty or magnetism. But there are notes, like there's like a note thing you can fill out when you purchase the reading. So if you want me to particularly just look at Virgo, in addition to these things within your chart to let you know what to look for this new moon, I can totally do that. So just like let me know in the client notes if that's something you want, and I'd be so more than happy to do so. And I also offer a very full, very comprehensive natal chart reading. So I'll have those both linked in the description. So there are 2 areas of growth that I really want to talk about today. So the first area of growth is reparenting, okay? This is a tough one, and this is something that I think is kind of just like a lifetime thing that we're learning, right? This is the healing of the inner child and giving your inner child what you needed as a child or even now, right? The things that your parents couldn't give you. Because at the end of the day, our parents are just humans. They're just humans, and as much as we put them on a pedestal and as much as we need a lot, especially as children, they can only meet us as far as they've met themselves. And for very many of us, our parents couldn't give us what we needed because people are people, and it's hard, right? So I think really tapping into both energies of the disciplined parent and the nurturing parent and really working through what you need at any given time, right? I think there are childhood wounds that we need to work through. There are inner child wounds, and there are current wounds, right? And so, whether it's you need more of the disciplined parent or more of the nurturing parent, being really honest with yourself and being really conscious of when these things come up for you so that you can, show up as that parent for yourself. So maybe that looks like you tend to overwork, right? You tend to, even when you're sick, you're like, well, I need to get this work done. I need to be productive because that's where my worth is tied to. Maybe when you were a kid or something, you weren't allowed the space to be really, really nurtured. Maybe like your parents didn't really let you have that time off. So maybe this looks like treating yourself like a child sometimes. I know that sounds weird, but like when you're sick, how would you talk to your child? Like if a child was here in front of you and they were ill, they weren't feeling good, would you force them to be productive? Or would you maybe like tuck them in with a nice TV show and like a bowl of soup, right? Or like me, when you are procrastinating a lot, right? Maybe you let your disciplined inner parent come through and be like, okay, queen, I get it, but you like need to do this thing. And after you do this thing, we'll get you a treat, right? It's a very dynamic thing. There's a lot of moving parts, and there are a lot of different energies of a good inner parent and how we can reparent in that way. So it's really a lot about being honest with yourself and working through a lot of these things. So my ritual idea for this is to pull some tarot cards or journal about ways to connect to your inner child. So use your tarot cards or do some like really meditative journaling to just like tap into the inner child within you. They're a part of you. I think that we really are our inner child. Like I still feel like I'm 17 half the time and I'm 26, right? Which feels crazy, but I think we are always ourselves, and we grow and we heal and we become different and we become adults and stuff. But you're still the version of you that you were when you were 7 in many ways, right? It's not like a mystical thing you have to do. You just kind of tap into that energy. Tune into what you needed as a child but didn't get. This could be ways that your parents didn't show up for you in childhood or ways that they're currently not showing up for you now. And this can be, you know, maybe you have a parent who is emotionally immature and they're never going to be able to show up for you in that way. And you can, if you want to be super healed and brave, honor that within them. Be like, you know what? They're just a girl or they're just a boy. They're just a person. And they are not emotionally mature, and that is who they are, and I can't change them, and that's not a reflection of me, but I can show up for myself, and I can give myself the reassurance and the care that I need from a parent. Show up for myself in that way. So make a list of ways you can show up for yourself, ways that you need yourself to show up for yourself, and show up for your inner child as your inner parent. The area for growth number 2 is taking care of your health. Okay, for me, this sounds so boring, but it's so fucking necessary. And it's because, you know, it's necessary, okay? And I'm just like a crazy little Aries thing that is just trying to eat my hot Cheetos and have my Celsius and just be a work machine. And it's like, okay, that's insane, right? Maybe eat a salad. Like, maybe let's do Pilates again. Playfully, maybe. Making fun of yourself playfully, right? But doing so with the intention of like, we're doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for our health, right? I know that eating salad sucks. I know that I like will enjoy it if I just do it enough. I know that I will enjoy making my exercise and my workout cute. And if I do it at home, it's easy and I can turn on some music and I'll get myself a little iced chai afterwards. So maybe if you're like me, like make these things cute and fun and pleasurable. Like maybe you're doing your budgeting, right? Because that's financial health. Maybe you're doing your budgeting and you've got the new Sabrina Carpenter album on, right? And you're kind of jamming out and you lit a nice candle and afterwards, or maybe beforehand, you get yourself a nice treat, right? So I think just really, if you're like me, being sure to make these things fun and cute. When I'm talking about taking care of your health, I am meaning physical, mental, emotional, financial, all the different types of health, right? I'm not just talking about how we're eating and the movement we're doing with our body, right? What do you need to take care of yourself? Where are you kind of lovingly slacking a little bit? Where can you show up more for yourself? How can you amplify your little health bar at your character icon, right? Really just being honest with yourself, tapping into what you need. Perhaps it is looking at where Virgo is in your chart. Maybe if Virgo is in your 10th house, maybe you make some career boundaries. Maybe you need to be more in it, like in your career. If it's in your 6th house, maybe it is about setting those routines and just being like really just overall health, right? Like really tapping into all the health. So my ritual idea is to craft and plan your perfect morning or evening routine for spiritual wellness and mindfulness, and to start a fitness practice that fits your needs and abilities, or to finally start your budget, right? Or maybe it's going to therapy, or maybe it's going to your primary care doctor if you can afford it. But whatever it is, after you've done this sort of journaling to see what it is that you need to tap into more for your health, tap into that. Create a little ritual of it. I am teaching a class called The Maiden's Magic. Oh my god, I'm so excited for it, you guys. It is specifically for women who are wanting to craft a relationship with the Virgin Goddess of Virgo within their chart, within their life, healing the mother wound, healing those wounds of perfectionism, and kind of like unwrapping the purity culture wounds that tend to plague Virgo energy, and also honoring Virgo in their magic and in their mundane life. We're going to be learning about the mythology of Virgo, including the goddesses associated with it. We're going to dive into the archetype of the Virgin Goddess, tap more into that like etymology of virgin, tap into also learning about how purity culture has really shaped reality for a lot of women. We're gonna work through that purity culture wound, the mother wound, the wound of the perfectionist, like I said, and then we'll learn about Virgo and astrology even deeper. We'll learn about the 6th house and where it is in our natal chart and really dive into that and what it means for us individually. I would love to invite you to join the class. It's going to be live on Zoom, and if you can't make it live, there is going to be a replay sent to everybody with a ticket. Okay, so it's going to be held on Tuesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m. Central Time. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I would love to invite you. The link will be in the description, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Okay, some crystals to work with to connect to Virgo energy or to support you during this Virgo new moon. Moss and tree agate are really going to hold the frequency of Virgo energy, so that really groundedness, that rootedness that we need to tap into to get these things done. So maybe, I assume I will do this, like when on the days when I'm like, I don't want to do my Pilates, I don't want to do my yoga, I just want to sit on the couch, holding on to some of those tree agates or moss agates and really visualizing the roots going through your feet and into the earth, giving you the power, giving you the support to get your shit done. Black tourmaline for protection against any negative thoughts, against self-criticism, against criticism from others, judgment from yourself and others. And lastly, rose quartz. This is like not a typical one you might see with Virgo, but like I said, I think it's really important that when we're clearing out these wounds, we're replacing it with that love and support for ourselves. Lastly, I have a tarot spread and some journal prompts for you. So I have a 6-card tarot spread, and this tarot spread is kind of how to care for yourself this Virgo season. So card 1, where in my life have I been too harsh on myself or let my inner critic be too powerful? Card 2, in which ways can I help support my inner child? Card 3, which areas of my life could use more nurturing, love, and support from myself? Card 4, which areas of my life could use more discipline from myself? Card 5, what can I expect from this new moon? Card 6, how can I best use my energy this lunar cycle? And lastly, I have some journal prompts for you as well. So you can pause, screenshot, do whatever you need, and maybe like do this journaling with like a cozy drink and cuddled up in a blankie. What is my relationship like to personal sovereignty? Which situations do I let people-pleasing behavior take my power away? What is my relationship to my body? Pleasure? Do I find shame come up when expressing sacred sexuality? Or when I see another woman express her sacred sexuality? What does my inner child need? What needs do I have that my parents failed to meet? How can I meet those for myself? I also have a Spotify playlist linked below that I've kind of created to embody Virgo energy. So if you want to listen to that while you journal or while you do any of these Virgo rituals, feel more than welcome to do that. That's what I made it for. So I'll have a bunch of links listed down below for further reference, and my class will be listed down below. I really hope to see you there. And also my readings as well, if you're feeling more of a reading. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.